Welcome, everyone. Today, I have a captivating story to share with you, A Tale of Two Cities by the legendary Charles Dickens. This tale is filled with love, sacrifice, and the powerful clash of two worlds during the French Revolution. So, sit back, relax, and let's dive into this timeless story that has touched the hearts of readers for generations. I hope you enjoy every moment of it. Once upon a time, in the cities of London and Paris, there lived a man named Dr. Alexander Manette. Dr. Manette had spent 18 long years unjustly imprisoned in the Bastille, a dark and miserable place in France. When he was finally released, he was a broken man, both in body and spirit. But there was one shining light in his life, his beloved daughter Lucy. Lucy had never known her father while he was imprisoned, but when they were reunited, she devoted herself to caring for him. With her love and patience, she helped him regain his strength and sanity. They moved to England, where they hoped to live in peace, far from the terrors of the past. Meanwhile, in France, a young aristocrat named Charles Darnay was troubled by the cruel actions of his family. His uncle, the Marquis Saint-Evremond, was a harsh and heartless man who treated the peasants with great cruelty. Charles, however, wanted no part in this life of privilege and decided to renounce his title and move to England. In London, Charles met Lucy Manette, and they fell deeply in love. Charles, now living under his own name, became a good and honest man, far removed from the corrupt ways of his family. But his past was not so easily escaped. There was another man in London named Sidney Carton, a lawyer who lived a life of disappointment and despair. Sidney was intelligent and capable, but lacked the will to make something of himself. He often drank too much and lived with a sense of wasted potential. However, when he met Lucy, something in him changed. He loved her, though he knew she could never love him in return. Yet this love made him want to be a better man. As the years passed, France descended into chaos. The people, fed up with the cruelty of the aristocracy, rose up in revolution. The streets of Paris ran red with blood as the guillotine claimed the lives of many. In this time of terror, Charles Darnay made a fateful decision. He received a plea for help from an old family servant who had been imprisoned by the revolutionaries. Despite the dangers, Charles felt it was his duty to return to France and help the man. When Charles arrived in Paris, he was quickly arrested. His noble birth made him an enemy of the revolution, and he was sentenced to die by the guillotine. Back in London, Lucy and Dr. Manette were devastated when they heard the news. They loved Charles dearly and could not bear the thought of losing him. But there was one man who could not stand by and let this happen, Sidney Carton. Though he had always lived a life of failure, Sidney saw a chance to do something truly noble. He knew that he and Charles bore a striking resemblance to one another, and so he hatched a daring plan. Sidney traveled to Paris, where he visited Charles in prison. He persuaded Charles to switch places with him, allowing Charles to escape and return to Lucy. Sidney knew that this would mean his own death, but he was at peace with that. For the first time in his life, he felt that he was doing something truly meaningful. On the day of the execution, Sidney Carton walked calmly to the guillotine in Charles's place. As he faced his death, he thought not of his own life, but of the happiness he was bringing to Lucy and her family. His final words were a reflection of this selflessness. "It is a far, far better thing that I do than I have ever done. It is a far, far better rest that I go to than I have ever known." And so, with his sacrifice, Sidney Carton redeemed his wasted life. Lucy and Charles were able to live on, raising their children in peace, never forgetting the man who gave everything for their happiness. And thus ends a tale of two cities, of London and Paris, of love and sacrifice, and of a man who found redemption in the most selfless act of all,